Why do you come? Is it for power to challenge the ancient ocean? Ah, yes. Fortune.
Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here, and this is Skull and Bones. Now, if you're familiar with our channel, you'll know that I am a big fan of nautical games, from Assassin's Creed Black Flag to Abandoned Ship, Sunless Sea to Sea of Thieves. It should go without saying then that I was pretty excited to see Ubisoft's latest adventure on the high seas, and in short, it didn't disappoint. I played for just over 20 minutes, taking on a bunch of AI ships from the British Navy and even other players in command of their own pirate vessels. As you might be able to tell from this footage, with Skull and Bones being really fast-paced, it can be a bit of an assault on the senses. So, to help make sense of things, here's what I loved about Skull and Bones.
Sail in a smooth beam reach! And ready the cutter! Fire! I want everything she's got!
First up, the speed. From the manoeuvrability of the ships to the rapidity with which your cannons reload and set you up for the next broadside, Skull and Bones is a very fast experience. Where nautical combat can be cumbersome and clunky, with good positioning making the difference between victory and defeat, Sea of Thieves being a good example, Skull and Bones combat is quick and agile, sacrificing a bit of nautical fidelity for the sake of a pacey experience. Whether you're speeding toward your next target or slamming the helm to one side in order to dodge an enemy's cannons and get your own into play, these are battles that can change rapidly from moment to moment, keeping things interesting without being comically fast. That's not to say there isn't a tactical element to proceedings though. Indeed, Skull and Bones is built on the foundations laid by Assassin's Creed Black Flag to make a game with a pleasing amount of depth to it. There were 3 ships on offer in the demo, 2 of which were brigantines and 1 was a more cumbersome but punchy frigate. I tried 2 of them, one of the brigantines and then the frigate, and came away with a sense that each was its own distinctive vessel with a very particular loadout. The brigantine I tried, for instance, had good manoeuvrability and also some very punchy chase cannons, meaning I could deal out a surprising amount of damage while closing the gap with an enemy vessel, softening them up ahead of a proper engagement. With broadside cannons, chase cannons, mortars and rockets all coming into the mix, you have a lot of options when it comes to dishing out damage, and switching between the two, as dictated by the ship's position in relation to your enemies, feels fluid and responsive. I felt very well prepared, in other words, and very powerful. Not only does each ship have its own specific loadout and playstyle, but also a distinctive crew and captain. The frigate I tried during the demo, for instance, was commanded by the shouty lady from the game's trailers, who frequently called orders to First Mate Silver and cheered her men on from behind the helm.
Full tilt, Silver! Full tilt!
The brigantine, meanwhile, had a male captain who was a bit more serious business in tone, but gave a strong impression that he most certainly was not messing around. It was surprising to find my crew and captain changed when I swapped out one ship for another, but to be honest, it was quite a welcome change. It helps deepen the sense that each of these choices are significant, that you're doing more than picking a ship based on its stats, because you're throwing your lot in with a whole crew boasting a proper ethos and its own character. It feels more like you're making a conscious choice of the tone with which you want to engage with the world, which is both elegant and surprisingly effective in a game where most of those interactions with the world involve hurling heavy lumps of cast iron at it. Talking of the cannons, this is probably a good time to talk about the sound design in Skull and Bones, because it is really, really good. The cannons crack and roar convincingly, lending a really exciting weight to the combat. The sails billow out with a crisp snap of canvas, your ship groans as you throw it about the place, and the air is thick with shouts from the crew. Or the occasional sea shanty. Yes, the beloved sing-along from Black Flag is very much alive and well in this game, and it's bloody delightful.
English frigate ahoy!
Of course, there is a lot of Black Flag in Skull and Bones, which is unsurprising given the IP started after Ubisoft Singapore realised it was onto a good thing with the naval combat from Edward Kenway's Uncanny Adventures. To be honest, I went in expecting a bit of a cynical reskin of those systems from Black Flag with a slightly different UI to paper over the cracks, but thankfully that just isn't the case. While the controls will feel instantly familiar to anyone who played Black Flag, Skull and Bones makes the Assassin's Creed game feel flimsy by comparison. In Black Flag, you controlled all of the action from the one perspective, you at the helm, spinning the camera round to get a fix on your enemy as you tried to send them to a watery grave. It was useful from a tactical perspective, but it was slightly detached. While the ship-to-ship combat was certainly fun, I have to say it lacked a sense of presence and immediacy. Skull and Bones, on the other hand, sticks you right into the fight, thanks to the way the camera snaps around from ship station to ship station. If you spin the camera to face one side of the ship and then hold down the left trigger to start aiming, for example, the camera will rush to the sailors manning the cannons, giving you a view of the world from their perspective and helping you aim more precisely. Trying to get an overall sense of your surroundings, meanwhile, snaps the camera up to the crow's nest, and of course you'll be spending a lot of time peering through the captain's spyglass. Again, this was something I was a bit unsure of before playing Skull and Bones for myself. The way the camera threw itself around seemed a bit frenetic, almost overexcited even. In practice, however, I didn't even need time to acclimatise to the visuals. Having the camera join the people who are operating the part of the ship in question really helps give things a sense of presence, again helping make the action feel more weighty, which is really important given the game's speed. It gives you more of a sense of the crew operating together to keep the ship running smoothly, instead of just a captain barking orders and basically doing everything themselves. The next thing I loved in Skull and Bones was also the silliest thing in Skull and Bones, which is to say each ship basically has an ultimate. On top of their different strategic characteristics like a sturdy ram on the front or extra cannons on the sides, each ship has a special ability that works on a cooldown timer. The Brigantine I tried, for instance, basically overcharges its chase cannons, letting you spam out shot from the front of your ship and deal loads of damage. The frigate, meanwhile, basically had a siege mode, and it was bloody hilarious, frankly. You basically drop your anchor, and then all of your cannons go nuts, letting you throw an astonishing amount of flak out into your enemies. These abilities are totally unrealistic and absolutely preposterous, and most importantly, they are extremely good fun. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I was playing this game mode with a few other pirates, each commanding their own vessel, and for the most part, we left one another alone, taking down enemy ships and visiting shipwrecks to scoop up some ill-gotten cargo for ourselves. We were told at the top of the demo, however, that betrayal was very much an option for anyone daring enough to try taking on another pirate. And at one point during the demo, another player and I teamed up to take down an AI ship, and with the deed done, the other pirate started to sail off in pursuit of another. And it was at this point I thought, well, in the interest of being thorough, I should probably try and kill this guy. Then, and it's going to sound like I'm bragging now because I basically am, I absolutely leathered him, about which he wasn't especially pleased, even though I did apologise, but it was still definitely worth it.
Captain, we've got word of a hostile target. Let's send it to the seabird.
It felt good to double-cross somebody for one thing, and I was giggling as I lined up the first broadside, but it was also exciting to put the fate of my ship and all its cargo on the line to take on a player I knew had some pretty formidable tools and abilities at his disposal, as well as a pretty respectable health pool. It was the nautical equivalent of going all in on a hand of poker, and it was an awful lot of fun. Of course, this was a hands-on demo and thus not reflective of the game running in live servers with ordinary players, so it's impossible to predict at this point in time just how willing players will be to cooperate instead of just taking lumps out of one another every single time. Either way, it's an interesting mechanic. There are times when taking on another player simply isn't wise, like when there's already a pitched battle in place, but then if you work together to take down that AI threat and there's no one else around you, well, there's simply less keeping you from turning on your piratical peers. There is an element of risk involved, however. While the rewards are great, you're likely to find yourself in a tough fight. Being sure you can actually see it through to the end is an important consideration. Not that I especially struggled to take down that other player, but there we go. That's me bragging again.
Captain, that ship there's full of riches, just waiting to be boarded.
Touchdown! Silver! Steve! Get us moving! Mr. Marcy! Steady for a halt!
And that, in a nutshell, is Skull and Bones, and what I loved about it. Basically, it's built on the best bit about Black Flag and added a decent amount of depth to an already good experience. I think it looks really promising, and personally I can't wait to see more, but what did you think? Your thoughts are, of course, very welcome in the comments below. And there are loads of other videos on offer from Eurogamer. Some of those should be on screen now, so give one of those a click. Do like and subscribe. Most importantly, thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.
Bring us to anchor, Mr. Mercy. Let's take a different tack.